Check, check. Quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. Boy, we're like twins here with our shirts.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This was not planned.
Was not planned. This was not planned, but audio video is good. Happy what today? What day is today? Today Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay, been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 13 years and in the futures markets for the past 6, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for 2 years now. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share my experiences, some knowledge, and hopefully help you become a better trader.
Good stuff. Thank you for that, Coach. Jay says, "Warning, I drank all the beer." Oh, good thing I don't like beer. Uh, welcome. You are all our chat, our audience. Thank you for joining us today. Uh, let us know how you did in the chat. Were you up on the day? Were you down on the day? Anything that you from the day that you could take through the rest of your trading careers. How was your day, Coach?
Rather boring and good. Um, Boring can be very good sometimes. Um, Actually, it wasn't. I made my money in the treasuries today. It was a pretty nice move in the currencies, but boy, it was the equities. Who would think we would miss that volatility?
Right.
But it seems it's a regular day, and it felt like it was slow. How
Felt
about
like we
you?
weren't. It felt like we weren't moving. Traded all right. Met with VIPs in the morning. We traded the open together. Took a short, took a long, took a scratch trade, and really called it a day until mid afternoon when we got that breakout. Uh, I think today was about not getting in trouble for the most part, at least in the equities. I think we had some movement in other places, but the equities made it a little tough. But made it out alive, which is all it is important. Lenny says DLL and XFA and halfway to XFA in a combine. Uh, Hopefully, it's a personal DLL, right? Something that you can control. Uh, Upset not accepting crypto in 2025. That's like showing up to a Formula One race on a tricycle. It's a good analogy. Uh, I don't know if that's what's happening here, but that's a good analogy. I like that. I'm Mr. Analogy. Uh, all right, let's talk about the markets. Let's go over to this Trader Hub really quick. We did have some numbers out this morning. Jolt's job openings came in at 7.192 million. Forecast was 7.5 million. Consumer confidence came in at 86. Forecast was 88. I think all of those consumer confidence numbers have been coming in lower than expected. We had some comments from the U.S. Treasury Secretary earlier this morning. Uh, and that was really about it. Comments from the president as well. Uh, Coach, anything you have on the news?
Just that JOLTS number. It's been a pretty active number, but everything is put behind. I get this feeling there's going to be an announcement. Um, but every day that goes by without the announcement, we're stuck. We're
Yes,
stuck in a range.
yes, we are.
Um, but I don't see. Is there any big news tomorrow?
Tomorrow, what do we have? We have a couple of CPI numbers. France, German GDP, Eurozone GDP. We have the US GDP and PCE as well. PCE half hour into the open. Later in the week, we have uh, PMI numbers, and then of course non-farm payrolls on Friday. Uh, Shout out to Auburn in the chat, Microsoft and Meta earnings as well. We did get Starbucks and Visa reporting. I don't see the Visa numbers yet, but Starbucks did come out for all of you caramel macchiato fans out there. Adjusted earnings per share 41 cents. Estimate was 49 cents. Net revenue came in at 8.8 billion. Estimate was 8.83 billion. And a Visa should be out in a little as well. I did not see the number. But yeah, Microsoft Meta tomorrow. And anything else you got on the news, Coach?
That's it.
Awesome stuff. We do have a comment here from the president as well, right after the close. China will probably eat those tariffs. That doesn't
What does
sound like
that?
a, I don't know. I don't know. Doesn't sound like a deal, but we'll see. All right, let's get into the markets. There are, well, that's a dumb. 35 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts, not just the equities. Today to the downside, we had soybean oil down 2.26%, corn, big mover, down 2.59%, and crude oil, our biggest percentage mover to the downside at 2.87%. To the upside, we had soybean meal up 0.78%, the Dow up 0.93%, and natural gas, our biggest percentage mover to the upside at 1.26%. You talk about our big four. We already talked about crude down 2.87%. The S&P is up 0.63%. Gold up down a half a percent, and the Nasdaq up 0.56% to round out our big four. Uh, put this back on extended trading hours. I'm gonna go out to a daily chart. What are we looking at here on the daily?
Nope. We're stalling. You know, this is what the all-time high, or it looks like the same setup as we had in February. It's starting to. We're getting these smaller and smaller ranges. This market needs to get going. I think we'll get a test of that 50-day moving average, but it's sputtering here.
Yep.
As I said, the longer this goes on without the big news, and maybe if China is eating tariffs, I don't know if they put soy sauce on that with the garlic, and I would suggest that. But that doesn't. It's losing its momentum here, and It could. I think it's going to pop either way, but we're still under the 200-day moving average. But if we see this rally, just like that February where we were stalled out and it gets smaller and smaller ranges, we'll break out of this and we're going to have a big move either way.
Yes, we are. And we're seeing that consolidation over the past couple of days. We've been talking about this. Ranges coming down, volume coming down as well. We do have some catalysts that, could move the markets later on. And the important there being could, right? There have been times where we've seen jolts move the market a ton. We've seen non-farm move the market. But kind of the theme we've been going with Coach Paul over the past 2 months is that the planned news isn't really what's moving us right now. And what I'm thinking is, do we really see something out of these numbers, or maybe a surprise rate decision next week that gets us out of here, or is the market really just waiting for tariffs? Right now, seems like we're kind of just slow drifting up. 6 green days in the S&Ps, and a couple of ranges I have marked out here: 55, 65 at these lows of the Liberation Day. We did close inside that range for the first time since we printed it. And the purple box down here is that April 9th. We can see that ended up being the low for the day. And we're stuck in this range, right? Not a ton of opportunity, especially compared to what we've been accustomed to over the last couple of weeks, right? Ranges have contracted. So I think it's important to understand that when we set expectations for the outcomes of our trades, Coach, right? I may not be able to look for a 200-point trade in the S&Ps anymore, where it's kind of tough to get that right now.
Um, no, but it's like the calm before the storm again. That's the
Oh
feel
yeah.
I'm getting. I don't just like you see, you've had this framed out perfectly. It's like a shadow cast upon the market. Um, but at any turn, at any moment, this could turn, and that's why I think most like big traders are on the sideline. They've done what they and until this some kind of bigger news comes out, we're stuck.
Yep.
What I found interesting is that the commodities collapsed.
Yeah.
Um,
What was that about?
crude,
You think?
well, that's about trade.
Okay.
At me, and this is an assumption that is corn getting crushed. I mean, that's a big move for the corn. 10
Mhm.
cents, like you said, was a liter. Bean oil, soybeans, crude oil, gold is starting to show some weakness.
Yep.
That's the unwinding of maybe some inflation hedges. But when world trade slows down, commodity prices break. Um, is that the reason? No, but there's a hint there. So I found it a little interesting. Actually, and with that, that's where most of my money was made today,
Nice.
outside of equities.
Nice. We will take a look at that. We're going to switch over to your charts in a minute on that. But let's take a little closer look at what was happening today. Like I said, uh, tight ranges. I'm going to switch these over to regular trading hour charts and we can look at just the New York session because overnight really didn't give us much either. I'm going to go down to a 3 minute chart. And outside of this opening trade, and we got to think about, what the open everything that came into the open, right? We are in between those two higher time frame levels. We had a little bit of a gap down for the regular trading hours. We have jolts coming out a half hour into the market open. There was a decent trade on this long on the long on the opening range break. I saw a couple of traders in the chat say they took it, um, but this was a slow burn type of trade, right? Wasn't the easiest hold. I saw the guys in fast markets taking some shorts, taking a couple longs, just kind of fading the extremes of the range, which made a ton of sense, right? If we look at Dakota and I were getting short yesterday. If we look at yesterday's high candle that pretty much turned us around yesterday, we kept rejecting there, right? So we're in between higher time frame levels. The market is really trying to decide what happens here because you know, on a price basis, yes, but there was a ton of selling that came in here for a fundamental reason. So it's not just going to easily blow through this level. And that's exactly what we're getting right now. So for me, coach, when I'm taking trades in this environment, do I want to hold on a long from 55.40 up to, 50 points? I do. But then, it's really easy when we do the post market review and we say, oh, yeah, I could have just bought it here and got out here. Uh, Hopefully you didn't get sick on the ride there. If I look at it this way, even on we could zoom out and look at a 30-minute chart. Even then, right, there's a lot of overlap, a lot of wicks, just not a very decisive move, and it makes sense for where we're trying to conduct business right now in a range that uh, I think means a lot to these markets right now. Coach, you're on mute
So we're making new lows in crude as we speak.
as we speak. All right. Anything else on the equities that you have before we go commodities?
No, I'm good there.
We do have Trump talking as well. President Trump speaking right now. Nasdaq pretty much the same story. Just real quick, the Nasdaq a little bit stronger. That April 9th candle though, sorry, April 2nd candle, 19,581. Remember where we saw that 1,000 lot seller come in yesterday, right at 50% of this level, and we cannot trade much above it right now. Give me a second here. What? Okay, we are seeing the market sell right now.
I think that comment, they can
Might have
eat
done
the
something.
tariffs, might have
Yeah,
meant something, and he's talking. So
right. Okay, so we'll keep an eye out for that. I'll put up financial juice up on this side. Let's go over to gold, coach. I know you had a chart that you wanted to share. You want me to go through it first, or you want to take this one?
you can start, and then I'll go to the daily.
All right, sounds good. So on gold, I'll give an idea of what I was looking at this morning. Actually, we talked about it a little bit on the daily yesterday. Down day, up day, down day, up day. A lot of consolidation. So last night I was on slow markets with Dakota. We talked about getting short gold. I did take the short and just going range to range, right? We started the overnight session at the highs of the range. So the trade, if we're going with patterns and patterns until they break, was to take the short. Here's the first 30-minute open. Uh, and it to me, it's not just a blind short, but you guys know kind of what we look at from a technical perspective. We have that 30-minute range. VWAP is kind of sloping to the downside. For this trade, I didn't really feel the need to have to wait for VWAP to leave the range because on a higher time frame, we are in that range bound activity. The trade idea was to just trade back to where we kind of broke out yesterday, right around 33.17s in this zone here. But we have just been chopping. And then we got a trade this morning. We took the opening range short on the 1 minute. That is what set up. Shout out to JD and Hogue for taking a mechanical trade, regardless of how they feel about it. Taking it and going from there. I think Hogue and I both maybe really didn't love this long trade. Sorry, this short trade. We took a short. Here's the 1 minute opening range. We broke to the downside. But here's the thing about a mechanical system: you take the trades even if you don't like it, because the risk is defined as well, right? We were not risking a whole lot on this trade. Above the opening range high, we were out, and wrong about the direction. But I think that's the reason they call it a low probability trade. But when it works out pretty good. We did take a long after that, kind of on the break on the upside, and I think the house account got stopped out. I was able to stay in this one, just risking new low of day here,
On the
and
J trade?
exactly, exactly. So here is where, and for the 150K subscribers, we're doing a risk management class. For anyone that signed up to do the class with me, we're doing it 6 p.m. Eastern time today. And when we talk about risk management, for me, I want to talk about stop placement, and just the way I look at it. Everyone's going to look at it a little bit differently, but for me, the stop on this trade went below where that volume failed, right? We've seen this how many times here? We have the J trade. I don't normally look at a 1 minute chart, but this is a perfect example of it. It didn't look exactly the same on the 3 minute, but my stop is going to go below this low right now. If they break this out, I think I had my stop at 33.08. My stop is going below the last place that volume showed it could trade, and significant volume as well, right? Not just a random low. There was significant volume there. Uh, Stop below that low. Yes, I do have to accept a little bit more risk, but it's a higher probability where I'm saying, hey, market, the last time you came down here, couldn't sell through it. You would have to do something that you haven't done before. And we can see how well that held to those lows for the rest of the day. Uh,
Wow.
so,
Notice a big bid there.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it went 3 times.
Yep. Yeah, it came down, checked it a couple of times. This was actually the area where we broke out yesterday. Uh, Look, going back to yesterday's high volume spike to the upside, on the same general area. Not exact, but nothing is. Uh, Chauncey, that's a great question. Does that allow you to trade anything above it? So that's a great question. Is this great trade location for this long? No, because if the trade does come and stop me out, then I'm risking 20 points. But what I like to do is, especially if I'm going to build a position in micros, I like to think anywhere in the range of this candle is a decent buy as long as my stop goes below 33.08, right? So as long as I can afford whatever position size I have below 33.08, then I'll add to the position. The minute I can't afford it, then I'm trading too big. And I also have to, try to do a calculation of how much room I think is available to the upside, where I'm not just saying, hey, yeah, I want this to go higher. If there's only two points available to the upside, then it's not worth me building a position in this range. But if there's a decent trade, then I'll take it from there. Um, Hopefully that makes sense. But let's switch over to your charts, Coach. I know you had something you wanted to talk about in gold.
Yeah. Let me 1 second.
Crude dude, this is a Brooklyn Dodgers hat.
Alright. Um,
Let me know when you got your charts up, coach, and I'll switch over to you.
yeah, I have too many windows open. I'll be right there. All right.
All right, there we go. Let's switch it over to Coach Paul's charts and look at magic. There we go. Go ahead, coach.
All right. Um, Here we have daily in the gold, and we've been talking about it in a correction. But as I was watching this today, and this is showing signs this could be a top. First of all, this was a huge range. It was 3% range, which was selling with the largest volume I could find going back. So liquidation, more liquidation, and we can't take out this correction high, but this is a descending triangle. Lower highs, we have that base on the bottom, but the key is lower volume. This is a classic pattern. Key is this neckline here.
What price
Um,
is that?
that price is 74. Let's call it 75.
33.75 or
Yeah,
32.75. 32.75.
32.75.
Got you.
And then we have the 50-day moving average moving towards that. I'm not saying this is imminent, but it's showing a pattern that the flow has changed. Um, One other thing is the pattern you were just showing for the openings. Remember they were buying?
Yep. Yeah,
Well,
Asia was buying, the US was selling, and that's kind of flipped
yep, here we go. The
even today.
purple part is the half hour, opening half hour sold. Last night, almost at the same time, sold. So this is um, starting to turn. Now, this isn't advice to trade, but this is a classic descending triangle off of all time and then off of all time highs. Um, but what really set me was that huge volume on the high and the change of pattern in Asia, where they're just buying it. So something to watch. And gold is slowed down on the volatility also. Another sign that that buyer is not there. We could be seeing liquidation, and it could be a sign of change. But this is right out of a a charting book. This is right out of the dictionary. So something to watch. We'll keep an eye on it.
Good stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. Switch it back over here. And we've seen that a couple of times last year, right? Where we had that kind of blow off the top in gold and then sell off. I can't remember exactly what the prices were when we did it last year, but very similar. And then we sat in a consolidation for a while before we started that next leg up. Um, and it is interesting that, we kind of watch these opens all the time, that we saw that flip, right? Where Asia kind of stopped buying it every day um, over the past couple of sessions. So something to keep an eye out for sure. I think when this move happens out of this range, it is going to be a big one, whichever way it goes, because we're
Whichever
not going
way.
to stay here.
Yeah.
Uh, all right, let's go over to crude oil on the daily. Looked bullish until it didn't. Uh,
Well, it never got above that 20-day moving average. Never recovered. Um, Boy, I short on that short today. I'm with shame here. Um, but
it looks like there's more room tomorrow. That's not trading
it
advice.
does
That's
look,
just an observation. But yeah,
yeah, and the way it closed today. So yeah, we failed at 20. We couldn't settle over it. We found selling again today through that low. Um, and it was continuous. There was no measured buying that I could see. So let's look at the half hour. starting with last night.
A half hour. And shout out to Dan Emmons in the chat saying SMCI is down about 17%. Seeing looking at Financial Juice, I don't think they were supposed to be reporting earnings today, but I see Super Micro prelim Q3 update. Adjusted earnings per share 29 cents to 31 cents, and net sales 4.5 billion to 4.6 billion. Estimate was 5.35 billion. Delayed customer platform decisions moved sales into Q4. So super micro down big. Might be why we're seeing the equities selling a little here. I'm not seeing too much as far as comments from the president that would have moved us. Uh, all right, crude oil, coach. Crude oil. Last night's open.
So last night's open, VWAP, same old story. We get there was no after yesterday's down movement. There's no responsive buying, and look at how flat VWAP was, and it stayed in there in that range. And look at once we broke, closed through it, it took VWAP with it. I took a small piece of that. Um, someday I'll grow up. No, but there was a classic trade. So and look where we are. We're actually at the low as we speak.
Yep.
Um, we could not, like I said, look at the as volume went up, we got more and more volume. The price went down,
Increasing sellers.
increasing sellers. So think about that. Increasing volume onto the sell side, VWAP slanting down. There's going to be an imbalance left of longs, and there's still an offer in the market. That's how you close on the low tick.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's the kind of thing where you gap and go lower.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Hogue and I were talking during the opening call about some potential downside targets. He was looking at this kind of where we are trading right now, the 60s. But then from here, just a visual target that I have down here is this 5840 area, kind of 50% of this, excuse me, of this range if we sell back into this. Crude looking very bearish right now. Anything else you have on crude, coach? Kind of zooming through these markets right now.
Yeah, well, we have a routine, coach.
I mean, I think we got it down now, and the equities didn't really give us much to talk about, right? A lot of times when we spend a decent amount of time on the equities, I think we can probably take a look at a couple other charts because I know we had some things moving. But let's get to some questions. Clarence and Dgen want to know, how do you draw the green box? So for me, I'm using a hotkey, which is Alt F. So you won't see me go and click any of the icons over here because I have it set to a hotkey, Alt F, and it is just the fib tool. In the drawing tools you have on the left side, three icons down. The first one is fib retracement, but I'm a simple guy, so I took all of the intermediate levels out, and I'm only looking at the high, low, and 50%. I have 0, 0.5, and 1 selected here. I just want to know the high, low, and middle point of high volume. All right, so Alt F, draw your fibs. Uh,
Hey, one other note on the, the average two range is collapsing. Today's range in the S&P was 76 and a half. The Nasdaq was 313.
it's like we're back to
So
normal.
yeah, we're getting back to normal with with volatility collapsing. It's rather friendly to the market, but it doesn't mean that this thing can just flip down. Um, but yeah, it's of note. So when we have these small ranges, it's a function of volatility.
Yep.
So and we could talk about size down. Well, now looking at the shorter term ATRs this morning, The S&P was like 6.5, 7. What was it? 2 weeks ago, it was in the 20s.
20s, yeah.
So,
That was not normal.
no. Then when we talk about it's adjusting, it's dynamic, it moves. So now, don't jump out there and start trading 5 mini Nasdaq, but it's relative. Now, with that same um, with that formula, if you did 4 micros in the S&P, you'd be taking around the same amount of risk as you were 2 weeks ago. This is something to know. So if you can, I'm adjusting my size.
Yep.
It's getting back to normal on the high side, not the insane side. So that's why I watch the average true range all the time. It's a great way to measure your risk, and it's dynamic. It's not the same. It adjusts with the speed of the market.
Good stuff, Coach. Chauncey says, I need to advocate for a range indicator. This might be breaking news, but I saw one in beta. I know who's building it. It's on the way. It is on the way. Opening range indicator coming to TopStep X. I think we just broke some news there.
Uh-oh.
I don't know who that's important to, but I know I'll use it. It's gonna be on my charts every day. So Jeremy John, you pull your fibs from high volume candles. Yes. Yeah, everything I do for me is going to be based on volume. So I want to identify high volume and then see how the market responds to it. For example, yesterday we had this selling that we kind of started us, kind of got us going. And then I'm just watching how the market responds to those prices when we get back up there. And then we had a question, Coach. What are thoughts for the S&P tomorrow? Um, Kind of the same as what we've been talking about, right? This 65, 65, 65. So April 2nd on the daily chart, right? This is for Pedro. On the daily chart, map out the high and the low of April 2nd and the high and the low, or you could really just use the high at this point because we're only respecting the high right now. The high of April 9th, right? So 55, 65 at the lows of this April 2nd, 55 20s at the high of April 9th. And we've just been, for the past 3 days, kind of ranging in between these two daily candles. Why are these two significant? April 2nd was Liberation Day. April 9th was It's Okay to Buy, We're Delaying Tariffs Day. Uh, we held that April 9th range, right? We came down to 50% of it, held it. Now we're just kind of consolidating between these two daily candles. Is the market waiting for a catalyst? Is it waiting for news? Is it waiting for an actual resolution? Is it waiting for the trade war to continue? We don't really know. So it's kind of hard to say exactly what to expect here, outside of range between these two things until we get a headline that moves us out of here. You say anything else with that, Coach?
Looking at the half hour, we're above the 200, we're above the 20, the 50, but I think you hit it. Look where we are, and within that daily range, it really needs to get going. I wouldn't be surprised tomorrow if it breaks down and test the 200 unless China stops eating the tariffs, um, and we get some news. But
Right.
the way I'm looking, I'm feeling heavy. I think we spin around and go back down. That's
Mm,
my gut.
yeah.
Um, so we're in in the rinse, so to
Yep.
speak.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the Russell? We don't talk about the
Uh,
Russell often. Very similar right now, but if there was a leader to the upside, maybe it's the Russell. Uh, Same candles though, right? Here's April 2nd. Here is April 9th. And we're doing the same exact thing in all of these markets. I think the Dow is the only one that's still trading inside this April 9th range. The Russell does have this major 2000 level right above it, in that range as well. Same story here though. We did close inside this April 2nd range for the first time. So what I would be looking for, on a daily, this is bullish. we kind of talked about, and Coach Paul kind of started, the session with, we're making this rally on lower volume. So great, we closed inside this range. Does it actually hold for us to trade through it? And if it does, then I'm looking at, 50% of all of these ranges as the next potential target. But if we come down here and buyers aren't convinced enough to hold above it, uh, then just like crude oil did, right? We saw crude oil do it where it looked bullish, right, coach?
Yep.
Until it wasn't. And the equities could very well do the same exact thing. So it's kind of hard to tell, to be honest.
Well, I'll tell you also on that Rusty, the RTY. Thank you, Billy. I'll be calling it Rusty from now on. Um, same one. We're between a 20 and a 50-day moving average, but that 50-day it's got a pretty acute angle. Um, if anything, we have to. If we close above that, then I think we rip. But right now, that's why we're seeing indecision, or maybe not in. Yeah, lack of conviction, lack of allocation.
Yep.
Um, so boy, it's the same tale. Now that we've done Rusty, how about the Dow?
Why not? It's hit for the cycle.
Go there.
It's hit for the cycle. The Dow probably has the most catch up to play. If we're going to rally higher, April 2nd is all the way up here in the Dow, and
Oh,
we're still inside that April 9th range.
um, I don't see. Can you put up the RSI?
He's getting deep in his bag right now, chat. RSI,
Yeah,
we
I'm
haven't heard
getting.
of that.
I
What
don't.
about
I don't keep it there because I had bad experience when it was overbought through the 1997 through I think 2001.
okay.
It was overbought.
Huh.
Anyway, but yeah, it's not buried. And that's even. So once again, this market is poised to go either way. I think on my option side, I think I'll buy some butterflies.
Here we go. Buying butterflies. My dad bought all my nieces and nephews home DIY butterfly kits. They start as caterpillars, little cups.
Really?
Leave them there, then they cocoon, and you put them in this net, and they're supposed to grow and to be butterflies. Yeah. See the
Well,
tangent
I
you kind
hope.
of just took me on, but
Yeah. Well, I hope my butterflies grow also.
hopefully so. Uh, Boomer Bryant, see, I bought one of those a few times. Love those things. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool, right? Pretty cool to see them turn from caterpillars into moons. It's like stuff that you read in a like a science book in fourth grade, and then seeing it play out. It's like, oh, nature really is a thing. It's pretty cool. All right. Any other markets you want to talk about, Coach? Anything else before we get out of here? We got about 20 minutes. If you guys do have any questions, let us know. Oh, Heather. Heather had a question about gold. So are you saying Asia isn't buying anymore? Speaking about gold, what's the kind of the flip in the pattern that we've seen here, Coach?
The opening half hour.
Let's uh let's map out a couple of these. Here is something real quick to make this a little bit easier. Session breaks. There we go. So what we're marking out here is the Globex Open, which is 2 hours before the Asia Open. Now I'm going back a couple of days doing this, and notice the pattern difference. Do like 4 more days just so we get a good enough sample size. Now the starting point for these rectangles is going to be what we'll call the Asia Session Open. Let's start with April 9th, right? Since April 9th was the big day on everybody's uh, calendar. What did Asia do, coach?
Opened, made the low, rallied.
They bought it. April
Open,
10th,
made the low, rallied.
April 13th,
Opened, went sideways, both sides, found some balance.
April 14th, opened, made the
Opened,
low.
made the low, went to the moon. Oh no, that's the
Actually,
next
no,
day.
yeah, this was
Yeah,
consolidation, stayed inside this range. Then April 15th, open, made the low, rallied. Open, made the high, sold off. Open, made the low, rallied. At some point, this starts to flip. Opened somewhere near the low, we rallied, New York sold it off. But now we're starting to see this change a little, right? Where these openings, and I'll clear some of these off, these openings aren't remaining the low of the session anymore, right? So from a volume perspective, there was volume coming into the Asia session and buying it, right? This wasn't just price action either, right? It was some pretty significant volume coming in and buying it. And what we've seen over the last couple of sessions is that that's flipped, right? Where it's been selling off in the Asia session and buying it, um, which why, coach? Do we know?
um, you're gonna put that on me? Yes, I'll tell you why. There was more sellers than there were buyers,
Right,
or it was lack of buyers. Maybe we put it that way. Not the, I mean, it's literally this is the way markets work.
right,
Now, now we go back to that daily. When we talked, I mean, that huge volume on that day with a massive range. We haven't recovered that. We're in a descending um, formation. Um, and look at the volume in this correction. It's getting smaller and smaller. So that buyer that was aggressive off the opening, it's not happening. That's how we can see some of that change.
yep, 100%. Uh, I thought they were buying overnight too, Heather. And this change that we're talking about is really over the last couple of days, right? Maybe a week or so that we've seen that change. Um, all right. We got a question here from Dimitri. What do you prefer to use as your opening range, 15-minute or 30-minute, and why? Uh, if we're looking at overnight, I'm looking at a 30-minute. If we're looking at New York session open, I'm looking at a 3-minute. Why? Because uh, during the overnight session, there's a higher likelihood of lower volume. So, and the trades that I'm taking during the overnight session are probably going to take a little bit longer to work out. So, I want to give the market as much time to kind of build a little bit of a story for the day before getting into a trade. During a session open where we have a higher probability of seeing volume coming in, the moves are probably going to happen a little faster. The shorter time frame opening range helps you get on that trend a little bit early. But whatever you use, keep it consistent. You know, I've seen people talk about a 1 minute, a 3 minute, 30 seconds, 15 minute, 30 minute. There
Our
is no right or hour. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever you do consistently that helps you make decisions. For me, it's going to be a 3 and a 30.
So, in a little background on the opening range, because I used to set them when I used to work for the exchange, when there was trading on the floor, the official opening was the first minute. So, if you put an order in, a market order, it had to be filled within that first minute's opening range. So if it was 50 to 55, you had to be filled in there, or the broker had to make an adjustment. It was really important. Um, and all the orders that first minute, because there was no secondary market, was no night trading, all the orders had to come into the trading pit. So that opening was really, really important. That's where all the biggest volume would come. As night trading began, trading overnight, all electronic access to where we are now. the opens aren't necessarily 1 minute. They could be 1, 3, 5, 10. Um, I used to be me. It was a half hour. I'm back. I'm to the 3 now. 3 to 5. Um, it sets the volume, and this is more in equities than it is in gold, crude, because they trade 24 hours. Literally, there's no. I mean, there's always trade in gold and crude. But so that becomes important. Most important thing is that whatever one you choose, you have to make your decisions based on that,
Right.
and don't waver. Don't do a 5 minute and then change it to a 15 because you want to find something that's going to help your position.
Right.
That's a common mistake. I've done it. Now I'm looking at the monthly. Where am I right?
Yeah. It's like I got long on the
um,
1-minute range, and if I look at the the yearly chart, it's going up.
yeah, it's got to. I've been there.
Right.
Um, but it's really important. Whatever you use, I find that the 1 to 5 is where the biggest volume is. Um, that that makes a measurable difference.
Good stuff, coach. Yair has a question. What did you guys find in volume today that could continue rallying? I was using the 15-minute and 100 tick, but volume was peaked, then slows, but both selling and buying. So I think, coach, we might have gotten spoiled by the ranges that we had over the last 2 weeks.
Yes, we did.
We might have gotten spoiled. The Today was a normal trading range day. If this was 6 months ago, we would be talking about this as, yeah, this is just a slow grind up day. So yeah, to your question, what did we see in volume that said that this was going to continue up? If we look at the opening range, right, 3-minute opening range, VWAP left that range, kind of just trended up all day. Now, I think what's really important to kind of it's important to kind of build a puzzle for what you can expect for the day. Coach, we're in between two high time frame battle areas in the equities right now. Um, and we have a ton of catalysts coming out later in the week. Lower volume is going to mean slower moves, and that was the case today, where it wasn't that definitive. Yes, it's definitely going this way, which made this a kind of a tough trade to hold. But even then, if you look at what VWAP did from the open, it didn't do anything but tick up. Now, was it the just a buy and hold, close your eyes, and close your trade at the end of the day? Maybe if you fell asleep and didn't watch all of this, but it wasn't as decisive because the markets on a higher time frame are not decisive. We've gotten to somewhat of an area of balance if we're not channeling higher. Um, so I think the puzzle for the day says indecisiveness. So when we keep that in mind and then we zoom into a shorter time frame chart, we'll see it in the price action as it prints. Uh, what said decisive here? My chart's kind of lagging right now. What's going on here, Top Step X? Come on. Don't you know we're doing a class? Uh,
It might be
what?
your internet feed.
Yeah, it might be. This is decisive, right? Hey, it's okay to buy. We're delaying tariffs. That got very decisive, and the market moved pretty quick. Something like this. We're not seeing that price action right now because the markets really need to determine whether or not this was safe to buy or do we sell off again. Uh, JD just said it in the chat. No signal is a signal. Extremely important to realize. Sometimes your strategy is going to say, stay the F away from this market before you lose money.
Hands down. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
If in doubt, which if it doesn't fit the w- trading plan that you're using, that means no trade. That means doubt. And your subconscious can find every reason to make a trade. It's you're in a hurry. We're as traders, we can be in a hurry,
Yep.
but you need to be quick. Quickness comes from executing a trading plan, and there's that thin line, and it takes experience and maybe the beating of jumping in for finding a reason. But one of the oldest sayings in trading is, "If in doubt, stay out," because you're exposing yourself to risk. Don't expose yourself to risk if you have doubt. You can help eliminate a lot of doubt by following a trading plan, following a routine. It's a really good question.
Great question.
To me, today was the opening breakout, and
That was it.
it's the only trade I made
Gave us a
in
couple
that.
retests.
Yeah,
Go ahead, coach.
and you know what? It did give a couple So this wasn't convinced buying.
No.
I would almost call this more short covering,
Mm.
or maybe this is gamma action from options.
Tomorrow is the last day of the month.
Tomorrow is the last day of the month. Um, that's a good point. So that was a really good question. But I would say this: VWAP is what? Volume and price. And that wasn't trending down. So if we removed the candles, hint,
Oh, my bad. I was reading a comment in the chat. Yeah, if we remove the candles, volume moved to the upside.
I love doing that. I know it freaks people out, but hey, I mean, it's keep it simple, stupid, right? And
Yep.
well, I prefer that. So it gives you an idea of what the volume is trending without the price.
All right, we got a question here and a challenge from Andrew. I think that's Mate X. I don't know how you say that name, but could you present your strategy, please? And Andrew says, summarize it in 3 sentences or less of no more than 30 words total. And Coach Ray and I actually do a class with a group of traders that we say, define your elevator pitch for your strategy. If you can't explain exactly what you look at to take day trades in an elevator ride, then you're probably looking at too much. So here's mine: volume moves the market. Identify volume, get in the flow of volume. My strategy.
Well said,
Simple as that. Uh,
concise, or also known as brevity.
yeah. Uh, where trade entries and things like that come into it. It again, volume moves the market. Identify the flow. Right. What is their goal? Get in the flow. Um, and see if you could do that for yours. Right. If your trading strategy says, "Hey, I need to make sure the clock uh, is, the hands on the clock are pointing exactly at 3 o'clock, even though it's 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. I have to have 2 cups of coffee and a banana, um, or I do jumping jacks with my dog, and then look at the markets. And you're probably doing a little bit too much, right? Just figure something out uh,
Coach, did you just say do jacks with your dog?
with the dog. With
Does
the
your
dog.
dog do jumping jacks?
My dog is 70 pounds. She's short and fat. She does not do jumping jacks.
I was going to say you could take that show on the road.
Right. She does not do jumping jacks at all. How to define the volume? Uh, Yunus, if you signed up to do the classes with me, we'll talk about that specifically. Um, we talk about it here every day. Honestly, if you go back and watch a couple of episodes of At the Buzzer, you'll get exactly how we look at volume. But identify high volume and then go from there. Uh, all right. Did I add at the retest of the range? Thomas, I didn't hear on this trade. I was kind of done trading for the day. But yes, I would be looking at, so let's think about what's happening here, right? We said identify volume. We identified a range. That's the opening range. Volume, which is this red line, VWAP left that range. For me, ideally, I want to be in a better position than the average buyer, right? If we're thinking average buyers in this red line, all of these tests and rejection of the high of that range should be opportunities for me to buy here. Why? Worst case scenario, I can make money to that average, right? If we were to just trade right back up to VWAP and reject, then great. I made, 40 points on the NASDAQ before we rejected. But we can see that this volume left the range to the upside, right? What is the goal, right? Where is money flowing right now? Money's flowing to the upside. So I'm just going with the assumption that the money is going to continue flowing to the upside until they show me that it's not. Today, it didn't do it decisively, right? That's why we see a lot of this overlap. But look at what happens. Every time we come back to that range, the dominant money flow is up here. So if I can get a better trade position than them, and sometimes it's not going to happen that way, right? Sometimes we're going to trend really hard, and this view up is going to act as the support, right? And we've seen it do that, coach, where it comes right to that line and rejects from
It
there.
happens
But
a
that,
lot.
yeah, it happens a lot, and that's money time, right? Where if we see it and they're saying, let's say this is a downward sloping view up, and every time we get there, the market rejects at it, we need to sell, and we don't care what price we're selling at. We just need to get all of these contracts sold, right? And it's a more decisive move, but that's not the case here. So when that's not the case and it's kind of flat, my thought process goes to, if I'm going to get in long with them and I can get a better price, I'm going to try to get a better price, right? Because they haven't been able to decisively move the market in any direction. It's kind of slowly channeling up. I want to buy better than them. Right. Anything else you got on that, coach? We are almost at time.
No, it was a great explanation.
Thanks, coach. Thank you, sir. Anything before we go?
Um, no, I'm just kind of excited to watch gold open tonight. Uh, tomorrow we'll look at bonds. 30-year bonds are making some interesting moves. But hey, for everyone, define your plan. We just talked about brevity. I love that you did that, coach. Um, 4 steps for
Yep.
you to enter a trade, a checkoff list. Would you get on a plane if you saw a pilot didn't have a checkoff list? No. Well, maybe you would do. I'm not.
Maybe, yeah. If I knew it, no.
I know-
Unknowingly.
So, yeah. And what is a checkoff list? Well, let's check your risk to make sure everything is according to what you're looking for. If you get caught, if you every now and again with trades and like, why did I do that?
Yep.
If you need to get a quick, like Coach just said, is a 4 point checkoff list. Slow you down. Check that out. Trade well, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Go. For anyone that signed up for the 150K subscriber giveaway the Top Step is doing, I'll talk to you all in 45 minutes. We'll talk more about risk management and technical analysis. We'll do two classes, kind of merge them into each other. We'll talk a lot more about volume. So if you signed up for those classes and you have any questions on volume specifically, let me know. But trade well, manage your risk, and I will see you all for fast markets tomorrow. Coach, thank you again as always. Have a great one.
Thank you, Coach. Have a good night.